Hi guys, it's Ben here from TX Space Station and welcome back to another underrated Sega Mega Drive games video. Yes, I've cooked up another batch of video games I think need a little bit more attention than they often get, so without further ado, let's take a look. The first game is Crackdown, which is a relatively simple concept, but a really fun game. Essentially you play as one of two guides, infiltrating enemy bases. You walk around the levels to the areas marked on the minimap with the X's, and you put bombs down, and essentially have to go through the level, put bombs on all of the areas, and then escape before all the bombs blow up. Simple concept, but very fun and very unique looking game. It's really got a good mechanic to it in that it's kind of a top-down feel, and you shoot up the enemies, you can pin against walls and strafe around, and it's quite fun trying to outwit the enemies, and also if you get close to them you can give them a punch in the face, kind of close-up melee style. The game is very challenging. I found that the difficulty level really ramps up in the later levels. There's some difficult parts where you've got to navigate traps on the floor, but on the whole the game is fascinating and really challenging and really unique. It's also got a two-player co-op mode where you can play in split screen, which is incredibly fun, playing with someone else, putting the bombs down and sharing the attack of the enemies and destroying the bases. This is a game that not many people talk about and that I think is a must-have in your collection if you're into this kind of game. Next up is Herzog V, which is a game that I absolutely love to talk about. Not many people realise that the Sega Mega Drive has its own real-time strategy game, and not just any RTS, but one that's said to have inspired series as great as StarCraft. This is a fantastic top-down real-time strategy game, which is very fun in single player, in which you can take on the pretty good Sega Mega Drive AI, but which is absolutely phenomenal in split-screen head-to-head multiplayer, and I've played this one with my friends many times. The concept is really good. You start out at a main base and you have to capture little settlements and get resources, and then eventually you'll go on and rush the enemy base, which is incredibly fun. The game is quite unique because you have a kind of commander robot that can transform into a plane. You use that to move around the map and to drop your units off, and you can also shoot at the enemy units using that one and can directly attack the enemy's commander as well. So lots of different tactics to it and a very impressive array of different units which you can set to various commands like attack, defend, heal. And the really good thing about this game is the sheer number of maps you can choose from. It really is just such a great title that I would highly recommend. Next up is the Immortal, which is essentially Dark Souls on the Sega Mega Drive, which is just a game you've always wanted to play, right? This game really reminds me of some of those old school RPGs that I used to play back in the old isometric days on the PC. You play as a wizard and your job is to descend through this dungeon and rescue somebody who's trapped there. The game is incredibly fun and also incredibly frustrating and very difficult. It's kind of like a lot of trial and error involved in this one. But the graphics look very, very good for a 16-bit system. The combat is very fun. As you can see, there's some really interesting combat animations where you can splatter goblins and slice them with your staff. And it has lots of interesting features like puzzles and traps and inventory items and scrolls and spells, all of the things that you'd expect from an RPG. It's a very unique title that not many people seem to talk about that I think really shouldn't be overlooked. If you're a fan of role-playing games, and especially if you're a fan of dungeon crawlers or very difficult games that involve a little bit of trial and error, a little bit of puzzle solving and some head scratching, this is definitely one to check out because if you can just push past the difficulty, it's very rewarding. And last but not least, we have Burning Force. Now, I really loved Space Harrier 2 back in the day, but this game actually builds upon it and improves upon it and is generally a better game in my opinion. This is very fast-paced, high-octane, really great shooter with fantastic graphics for a Sega Mega Drive game again, and the music in this one is amazing. You basically fly across the levels on your space hover bike type thing, blasting enemies. There are some extra features here that you wouldn't have seen in Space Harrier. You can jump up into the sky if you hit the ramps properly. There's lots of power-ups that can increase the width and speed of your shot and the power of it. And also there are some really kick-ass boss battles. Usually these are quite over-the-top Japanese-style boss battles where you can find a weak area and try to exploit that in order to win. The game has some really fantastic bonus areas after the levels as well, in which you're fully flying in multiple directions in the sky and have got to collect various points, which is really, really fun. Overall, I think this game is just more polished and a sharper experience than Space Harrier 2, but has a similar kind of gameplay to it. I would say this game is definitely on the challenging end of the spectrum, but it's one that I do enjoy to dabble with now and then, and that again I think shouldn't be overlooked because it's probably better than Space Harrier and deserves a bit more attention than Space Harrier. So there we have it guys, there's 4 more Sega Mega Drive games for you to go and check out. Take care and I'll speak to you all soon, bye.